My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to this episode of Legally Clueless, and this is what's coming up.
I don't mind the idea of companionship. I don't mind the idea of having somebody you love, or the monogamy bit that comes up with it. I also just realize the realities of it. Very few people go through marriage and are monogamous, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Very few of them do that. Secondly, very few of them finish that marriage period and think to themselves, you know what, this was the right choice. I did marry Kinuthia and I am okay with it.
William is back for part 2 of his story that has really resonated with very many of you. I feel like I'm so excited for our generation, and I don't only mean millennials. I'm a millennial. I mean anybody who is of the age to make the decision to be child-free. We are leaning into choices that the generations before us didn't have the luxury of. I don't even think some of them knew it was a choice. I don't think some of them, out of survival, could even make that choice. But anyway, I can't wait for you to listen to part 2, because I know a lot of you resonated with so much of what William shared in part 1. But before we get there, jubilation, celebration, applause, all of those fun sounds. We have a new show here on Legally Clueless African Network. It is a 6-part series that began last Friday and will be out every single Friday. And it's called Different She Makes. I embarked on a journey to spotlight African women who are doing the hard work without the spotlight being shown on them, without the applause, without people even knowing their names. And one thing I want to change through the shows that we develop here is to ensure that, like, the African women doing the work, their stories are going to be known and remembered. And so with Different She Makes, I dove into Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa and found incredible women who are doing the necessary work that upholds a lot of legal systems that allow you and I to have the life that we have. So episode 1 went out and features Anne Ireri from Kenya. And, you know, even just what I was talking about earlier about generations before us not having the luxury of certain choices, Anne spoke to something that not very many of us understand. There was a time where legally women were not seen as human beings. Like the law saw us as property, saw us as children, but not as fully formed human beings with agency. Listen to this.
I mean, you can see the game changers. Allow me to give an example of even land and property. We never had provisions that speak to the right of women to own property and to have investments or to own land. Then if we even look at the language, actually, if you go back to some of the very old statutes, women were considered as part of property. We were not really human. We were part and parcel of furniture.
That's a bit of my conversation with Anne Ireri. I think you should definitely check it out. I love that you're part of this family, and being part of the family is, you know, supporting every new show that we have. So check it out. A link is in the show notes, or just go to our YouTube channel and make sure you share it with the people that you love. Let's make sure that these African women who have done extraordinary work get recognized, right? Instead of us just like not honoring the freedoms that we have because of their work. You know, that's what I'm trying to change for the show. So check it out. Let me know what you think. You can drop a comment on the episode. Yeah. And thanks for supporting in advance. All right, let's jump into part 2 of William's story, right? So just a bit of a refresher. Part one, William took us back to his childhood, being parentified and realizing very early on in his life that, hey, Mimi kids, apana, I don't want it. Or marriage, I don't want it, right? And spending years being dismissed by family, partners, and even doctors who would tell him, you know what, you're talking about being child free, but we're pretty sure you're going to change your mind. In the second part, William shares what happened when he finally acted on his decision to be child free, the physical process, the fallouts, the silence, the relief, and the unexpected costs of choosing a life outside the norm. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
The weirdest bit about this is that moms know, dads are just nonchalant. Until this day, my dad still does not realize I am child-free. Like I said, when I was younger, I kept repeating it. The only person who used to hear me clearly was my mom, saying, staki watoto, staki marriage, staki watoto, staki marriage. My dad used to just go like, I'm just a watoto. This is just a kid who's just pretending. So eventually, I also just understood, if I want to tell people information that really matters, I'm not telling you as my father, because clearly you still think I am a child compared to, which I am, but I also have some insight that you do not know about, especially when it comes to my life. So yeah, I never bothered to tell him about it. I was never going to tell my mom about it too, because it's genuinely, like I've said, they project. It is my life. I am the one who's gonna have to look for the diapers, look for the money for the school, high school. Yeah, it's me. But they tend to project and think, oh, I just want grandkids. Tupe mmoja tutalea. Nobody ever lares. They always just go like, tuma pesa ya mtoto anataka. Tupe mmoja tutalea has never been a reality. So yeah, I never bothered to tell my dad about it. Now me alighting in Nakuru, just remembering the conversation I've just had with my mom. I am alone. I have nobody to tell this to. Perks of being an introvert. So I walk, go to the hospital, sit down. I am here for an appointment. That was, okay, welcome. Have a sit. Beauty of it, we were like 7 or 8 men in that waiting lounge. They were way older than me though. I can clearly tell, kuna wawili, kuna watatu. You're just now trying to prevent yourself from getting more. I remember sitting down and the doctor now fondling my balls as looking at me. He's like, hey, na kijana wewe ni mtoto. Like, yeah, I know. I've been trying to do this for the last 10 years, but apparently all I needed to do was pay you 10,000 for you to do it. So I have the procedure. We have conversation with the doctor. It's not a procedure that they put you under. So you're awake. So you can just feel and tell what everything is happening. Have an entire conversation. Hear them having conversations with each other. It's a local anesthetic. So they just talk to you, everything. Yeah, it's an hour 30 minutes procedure. It doesn't take too long. My vas deferens was a bit hidden somewhere. Apparently, it took a bit longer, 2 hours, but eventually they got it done. And that was it. Oh, the things that were happening in my mind as, another man is fondling your balls was, he asked actually the apt question. He was like, kijana, kwa sure utarudi hapa utulipe milioni tujaribu kuunganisha hizi vitu tena? And I remember going back to my head and remembering my mother saying, my son, please don't do this. And I went like, yes, I am sure. Because if I did not hear her and I am here sleeping on this table, letting you fondle my balls, then I know for a fact, I am very, very sure of the action I am taking. So never mind. Why would I pay 10,000 and come back to pay $1 million for you to just redo the thing? Please proceed. So yeah, they were like, hey, you got balls. Pun intended. Yeah, so we had conversations. They were telling me about other things they've done, of scenarios where actually men have gone and have to come back, and because they realize they made a mistake. The entire procedure, we do it, 2 hours done. They tell me, you actually can't board a matatu again going back to Kericho, so I don't know what you're gonna do. I'm like, really? What? Nobody told me this. What am I supposed to do? I'm like, okay, cool. They tell me, as much as we've cut it, you also need 3 months before you're, I forget the word for it, that stores sperms empties, so you're still fertile. So just be aware. Also, you can't have sex for the next 1 month, so another dry spell. I was like, cool. Those are things I can live with, but 1 month for a lifetime of peace and freedom, I am okay with. I figure out how to go home. I go home. My mom is still at a meeting, but moms are moms. She called me and said, how did it go? So it went well. I'm just in a bit of pain, but I was given painkillers. Nimechukua. I'll be okay. He's like, no. Let me ask one of your cousins to come and take care of you. So one of the cousins is sent to the house. Cook for that guy. Do it. He's sick. Don't ask me where he's sick, but he's sick. So my cousin comes. Nimeambiwa wewe ni mgonjwa. Like, yeah, just never mind. I am still very, even until this point where I'm recording this podcast, I don't know who to tell and not get judgment from it, and who to tell and get, oh, thank you for being one of those people who is conscious enough to just take the step. So, yeah, of my family, I think my mom knows because of happenstance. My siblings know because, nyie mtanifanyia kitu, so jueni wanawategemea. Of my cousins, very few know. But I also just move in life telling people I am child-free. I miss me with that kid shit. So yeah, healing period takes about 3 months, bit of pain here and there. I have shit luck, so I am one of those few men who got the complication that can happen when you do your vasectomy. I forget the exact word, but it's normally just a pull of the produced sperms trying to get to the other side, but it's no longer available to them, so they swell. So 3 months, 4 months down the line, I am in pain again. I have to go to Aga Khan, Kisumu, to see a urologist. Another old woman. Like, so I had a procedure. I've been in pain the last 2 weeks. Can you help me out? All proceeds, I had a vasectomy. Why did you do it? Do you know how I make my money? To fix things like this. I'm like, okay. So it was a 30-minute lecture before he actually now, with another student doctor, which, my luck, I just get the student doctors. Did an entire scan. And yeah, he said, yeah, you are the 1 percentile. You've gotten this and this. These are the meds to help. Come back if it doesn't recede in the next month. So I go back to work. At this point, I'm just moving in life. Nobody knows, but at this point, I didn't know how heavy a weight I was carrying until that point in time. I went like, I have done it. I have done it and I am okay. Life is moving on. Nobody is looking at me weird, everything. I am okay. So I was breathing easier. I was moving easier. In fact, I was now, I'm inside. I can now eventually, when this is done, maybe try and have sex again. Who knows? I take the meds. They help. I made sure never to go back to that person again but they helped. Thank God, because I didn't know how I was supposed to go back and say, I am that young kid who you were complaining to that he had cut his balls. That is 2023. We are about to get into... Actually, is it 2023 or 2022? It is 2022. 2022, late 2022. I needed a 3-month period before I went back for a test. It just involves you jacking off into a cup and giving your sperm to somebody just to make sure your sperm count is a bit something. They don't tell you that you're supposed not to have sex before you come for this test. So I went like I had they were it's like a very intimate conversation with a random lab technician. It's like, did you have sex yesterday? Like, yeah, I kinda had sex yesterday. Then why are you doing this test? I was like, was not told I'm not supposed to have sex. You know, the thing that they do with surgery where they say kneel by mouth. So you know that this person is not supposed to drink anything or eat anything before they go into surgery. They did not tell me this. We are not sure if this is going to give the right results, but wake up. Adi? And I wake up. What are we putting here? Your sperm. Okay, cool. I go, do the thing, come back. I'm like, this is the guy who was just known from jacking off. It's like literally the weirdest shit you'd ever do in your life because, yeah, and he, thank you. The results will come back after 2 days. I'm like, I'm not coming back to Nakuru again because this is both embarrassing and too intimate, but buy me dinner first. So the test goes. I talked to my urologist who did the surgery. He says, "Yeah, I forgot to tell you, but it doesn't really matter as long as it reads certain values. So they normally measure is a parts per million. So your sperm count is parts per million. So a million sperm counts, you're supposed to have over and above 80% for you to be fertile. The test comes back, it's 0.001 parts per million. I'm like, yes, it worked. Because apparently it can fail. The human biology is a tough thing. They can cut it and then it still reconnects after 3 months so that you come back and it's like still reading a million for parts per million. So I was like, yo, it worked. But I was also like just moving like, you've also just told me that I was supposed to not have sex before. And this can be a fake result. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna maybe just still be careful with this shit. That was 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. We are at now. Life's been good. Sex has never been better. The heaviness of carrying the guilt of you could make somebody go through fetus deleters is now eventually starting to fade. I am more able to now just interact with people, not with the idea of we could have sex or anything, but with the idea I know I can never mess up your life because it's your life that is gonna be messed up. My biggest and the thing I hold close to heart that I always think is the best choice I ever made is that now, at the back of my head, when I am being intimate with a partner, I am not thinking, I can give you kids. That is the thing. I am no longer in my head. I can now enjoy the intimacy that is happening in front of me. I am no longer thinking, am I about to come? Do I need to pull out? Is the condom burst? Is shit happening? I am no longer there. I'm just in the moment. And that's it. That has been what it has been for me as being a child-free man. The downsides, I've just told you that I was in an office where life was a bit difficult. I am still a youngin', I'd like to think, as much as I'm not a Gen Z. But there I was that person who used to be sent out for fields and everything because they used to go like, you don't have kids. You don't have a family to take care of. So you know what? For this holiday, you're the one who's working. Go to that site, do that thing. That is the biggest downside about it. That's if they eventually realize, especially in a corporate era, that you are the one who doesn't have kids or will never get kids, every shit job that is a holiday job, every shit job that is you covering up for somebody. It's you. It's always you. You don't have a family. What are you doing in the house? Watching? I would like to watch. That is why I did this thing. I would like to have the freedom to go to Maliendi on a random Tuesday. No, come back to work. Nani's kid is sick. They get precedence. Those are the difficulties I have to go by on a constant basis. Going back to what I have said, I constantly try to make sure I don't tell people. You could ask, and I won't tell you. I'm incapable of having kids. But unless you ask me a specific question, why are you incapable of having kids? I'm not going to divulge and tell you as the HR or anybody that yeah, I had a vasectomy about 3 years ago or so. Because it's information that will be used against me. Yeah. So at this point in time, my dad still doesn't know. I'm thinking maybe it's about time. When I go to December holidays, I might just sit the guy down and tell him, by the way, you might be waiting on something that is never coming. I am pretty sure that will also break him as an old man. I will feel for him, but I will not regret my choice. It was the choice I did and made based on years and years of telling people, I know what I want and I'm gonna take it. And you as the society, you as the people who have lived in that cycle where we just do unazaliwa, you soma, you get your family, and then repeat the entire cycle, is keeping telling me that, are you sure? Won't you be lonely? Lonely for what? I have freedom now. I have the ability to stay in my cozy little home and not think about the heaviness that is gonna come with sijalipo for the last 2 months. What is my kid gonna eat? Right? I can at least handle the downsides of living life without having the responsibility of an entire other life that I am responsible for the rest of my life. One of the reasons I also think I went into being child-free was being raised a millennial. You have to understand our parents didn't understand it was their responsibility for the rest of their lives. They thought 18 is where we clock out, man. God damn it, umefika 18. So no, umepita high school. Okay, that's okay. I will pay for your 4 years, 5-year course. But after that, me and you, hatuonani mahali bana. Figure out your shit. For me, I have nothing against parents. I have nothing against kids. Tall as I am, every time I interact with kids, I am that giant they want to come and hug and play with and hear stories from. I go home sometimes during December holidays and I get tired because I have been entertaining kids for the last 4 hours. I have nothing against kids. I just don't have anything that is affection for kids of my own. And that is it for me. Sad bit about being an introvert is I don't have as close friends as I thought I did. Realities of moving through life and becoming an adult is you realize you thought you had friends and you don't have friends. So a few of my friends from undergrad, I told. They were like, bold move. And that's where the story ended. There was no conversation where they were like, are you sure? Do you know what you've done? Which is the one bit I actually acknowledge and like, that of the friends I had, none of them went like, you will regret it for the rest of your life. No, they were like, good for you. We are behind you. In case you need anything, holla. And that was the end of that conversation. So, of the friends I had, a few of them know. Of the friends I currently have, if the question ever comes up, yeah, they will know. Like I said, I try to move through life not lying. So if you do ask me a very direct question, it's very difficult for me to not answer it. I either say I can't answer it or answer it truthfully. So currently, just to take account or a census of who knows, would be a few family friends and a few friends and the child-free group that I am part of. The other bit that I also like about Corona was how, not actually Corona, when did I meet this group? 2023, late 2023. I did not realize there was a child-free movement in Kenya. I'll call it a movement because we've been called an agenda. We are an agenda. We are trying to make the population biased bullshit, but anyway. I did not know there's a group where people just hang and can just genuinely relate and say we're child free and we're okay with it. I used to think I was the weird one because at this point in time I have interacted with millions of people until I am 27 when I'm having my vasectomy, and I have not met another person who just went like, you know what, I also don't want kids. So I was like, what is wrong with me? But then I met this group and I am glad. I met people who had the same conversations with their parents, who had the same stopgaps, who went to the same hospitals and they were told, no, you need to have this kind of condition for you to do this. You need to be this old for you to do this. And you're asking them constantly, why? And eventually I just realized they wanted money. So I was like, I wish I knew earlier. I would have actually gotten that money way quicker. Prevented an entire scenario that now has formed a core part of my, in Inside Out, it's called a core memory of me, where I constantly always just go back sometimes when I'm reminiscing about my life and think I could have done better with that. It's a good thing we are talking about those tenets. Being a priest never alluded to me because, it was never something I wanted eventually when I became cognizant of, realities, because it did not make sense. Why am I denying myself pleasures for a God I don't believe in? The child-free bit, I have enacted it because give me a logical reason to be child-full and it makes no sense. The third one, that is marriage, works with the same thing. There's no logical scenario until now that I have met that alludes to me and tells me, you know what, you could actually enjoy a scenario where you go through the institution of marriage and be okay with it. I am about to attend a wedding. I am happy for that person, but I will never see myself in a scenario where I sit in front of a pulpit and they say, do you as so and so accept so and so as your lawfully wedded wife? It will never happen. Why? It's just based on the idea, the institution that it is and has constantly always been to me something that is cage. It's a cage. Now that also speaks to why I'm child free. Like the freedom that comes with being yourself among other people, I don't mind the idea of companionship. I don't mind the idea of having somebody you love, or the monogamy bit that comes up with it. I also just realize the realities of it. Very few people go through marriage and are monogamous, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Very few of them do that. Secondly, very few of them finish that marriage period and think to themselves, you know what, this was the right choice. I did marry Kinuthia and I am okay with it. Very few. It takes an entire amount of time for you to acknowledge your reality and say, you know what, I am here. I am now going to try and find happiness within this thing. And that is what our parents did. 40 years later, and then they're sitting down and saying, okay, this is the reality, man. Let's try and find some happiness with it. And then that is when actually they now stop fighting every night, and they start that for me, the things that built into me not liking or understanding marriage was a bit of that, a bit of the domestic violence, a bit of our neighbors, my family, everybody, where in the age that I was living, every few nights there's somebody fighting with somebody about some bullshit that can be avoided if you were just honest enough to say, we are just trying to go through society as we've been told to go through society. That we get our work, we get our wife, we get our kids, and now we force them to do the same thing. And I refuse to do that. So that's where I stand. In terms of marriage, I still don't like it. I like it for people who choose it. I have an entire candid conversation and tell them, are you sure? Is this, I will point out the negativities of it and you will tick them off and tell me if you're okay with this. Are you sure? Well, but nimeambiwa. Okay. You know what? I can't convince you kama umeambiwa, but I'm just telling you that if you're sure, make sure you're sure. Because 5 years down the line, you'll be alone with that other person in your house with that one kid and thinking to yourself, shit, I could actually be in Bali, in a beach right now, having the time of my life. But nobody made that decision for you. You did it yourself. No, I think that has been my child-free journey. There is nothing that I would say that would be any different from it. I mean, I guess there were other bits that maybe I can touch on is I have to move through life also trying to also not influence people. The thing that we face right now, especially for AB, Grace, with how she's vocal and media personality, even if you read the comments in her TikToks and everything, they keep imagining it's an agenda. So I try to listen to those people who want kids, who don't want kids. But what I try to do is have a neutral conversation with them. And that is where currently I am at, where I am child-free, but it's okay for you to have children. Nobody say it's not okay to have children. What we are just saying is, can you understand that some of us don't want to have children? Not because it's an agenda, not because we'll be paid. I wish there was payment. I genuinely wish there was payments. Not because there's payment. It's just, realistically speaking, at the end of the day, you're the one who goes back to your house with your kid or not with your kid. You're the one who understands where that shoe pinches because you're the one who wears that shoe. So at the end of the day, I will tell you, realistically, in this economy, I know it's being told as a non-brainer that an economy shouldn't be one of the decisions, but it should be raising an entire human being from zero to forever. Because that's the other thing I figure parents don't get, it's forever, is that there's money involved. And doing it as a choice is very different from doing it as a not a decision you've made, but as a responsibility, as something that society has told you, you have to do it. So when I have those conversations with people, when I am going to meet my friend who's about to get married and will now start being told a year later, where are the kids? You know, it's a conversation we'll have with him, and I will tell him, I have not liked marriage, I've not liked kids. You've been married, sour. But in terms of kids, think about it. Are you sure? Does she even want it? You know, have you had that conversation? How many? You want a football team, she only wants one. So what happens? Realistic conversations are the things that now I move through life having them. That when I am talking to my siblings and we are hanging out having a game night, they always say I'm a downer, but that is the one bit of being an introvert. I like having really deep conversations because those are the things that matter. You can't have a game night and just leave the game night and say, oh, tulilewa, and you had a good time and you didn't leave with something that at least informed how you move through your life moving forward. Either it's a money conversation, either it's the kids conversation, either it's just life. It's just how we live through life. That is something I constantly do. So yeah, neutral conversations around kids is what I am now trying to do, where I can come into a office lunch break room and hear, oh, mtoto wangu amefanya 1, 2, 3, and the other one is being told, now you should have your firstborn, by the way. You know you're getting old, your biological clock is moving. And now I have to be the one person who says, what biological clock? You know, what biological clock are we talking about? There's somebody who got kids at 80, so what biological clock are we talking about? And I have to now either be the devil's advocate or maybe get a few other people who join me because they were just waiting for somebody who can tell the older people, please stop with that bullshit over I need to have my firstborn. I know what I am doing with my life, so please stop.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. Listen, we don't have too many men who come on this show to share their story because we're really a space for African women, right? But I must say, this is one of the most powerful stories I have heard, because I've never really leaned into like, what is the process men go through? Not in terms of like the technical, right? So not the vasectomy. I'm talking about the emotions, or like where their mind is at when they're choosing to be child-free, right? And I feel like listening to his conviction and his intentionality, his empathy for his partners, it's like refreshing. It is so refreshing, like he's reminding us that like opting out of certain life paths is not you being selfish. It's you being very thoughtful and intentional and empathetic, like deeply humane, right? When you are trying to prevent harm, not only to yourself, but to others as well. That is my number one, there's so many, but number one takeaway from William's story. I want to know yours. Please drop it in the comments section. I want to know if you're child free. Let me know what drove you to that decision. How has your experience been? I love reading your comments. So wherever it is that you're listening to this on, please drop a comment. And if you want to share your story on the show, in the show notes, there is a storyteller form. Fill it out and one of our correspondents will get back to you. Remember to check out our brand new show, Difference She Makes. It's linked in the show notes, and share it with everybody that you love. And thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end. As usual, and I deeply mean this, I repeat it every time, not out of habit, but because I truly believe it. I think that you have every single thing it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.